Yep, we are live. We're alive. Hey, hey, hey. Ooh, so, okay, I haven't done an unscheduled live in a long time. And so I wanted some of you would know that I have an event coming up this week called, excuse me, Representing Our Ancestors, Representing Our Stories. It's a 3-month event. And, I'm not going to necessarily, I'm going to keep talking. I know people are coming and joining, but I'm following what Spirit is guiding me to do. I wasn't even planning to do this today, but I've been in communication with Spirit of my ancestors, and also I just finished a technical production on a virtual retreat, a 2-day retreat. So right now it's like 1:24, 1:23 a.m. and I could be sleeping right now. But when you say yes and you show up and you want to represent your ancestors, represent your stories, then you gotta not just stay up, you gotta be up, you gotta be present. Just want to make sure, okay, good. Everything is doing what it needs to do. I'm checking it on Facebook. I'm sure it's on YouTube as well. So anyway, let me just continue. I feel like this is going to be a short live, and I'm hoping it is, but we'll see. And right now, my intention is to do something for the next, 7 days? Is next Saturday. The first event is on Saturday. So I let Spirit guide me. But what I want to tell you about representing our ancestors, feel free to let me know where you're listening from, where you are in the world, what you're doing. But let me just jump in. So representing our ancestors, representing our stories. Woo, I feel a lot of energy, a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings coming up for me. And I'm going to have to pace myself because I've talked about, I feel it. I've talked about this event on my podcast, which airs every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. But this is the first time that I'm doing it this way. I've been promoting it, but as I said, Spirit told me to have this conversation. So let me tell you what representing our ancestors, representing our stories is about. But before I actually tell you what it's about, let me tell you how it all started. And I feel like I'm feeling all of that right now. So a year ago, almost a year ago, not long after George Floyd was murdered, I was part of a gathering, an interplay gathering. And the gathering, I think it was for something else that we were doing. If you don't know what interplay is, just do interplay.org. Okay. But in short, interplay is a practice. For me, it's a spiritual practice. It's a practice that helps me embody what I'm noticing, what I'm accessing. So we use storytelling, movement, sound, stillness to integrate, to align. I am a certified leader, an interplay leader. But it's a way to come together to build community. It helps you to connect, to release stress and activate joy, and also help you connect with your inner authority and find your own place in the midst of all that's going on. So about a year ago, after George Floyd was murdered, we had a gathering that was scheduled in advance. And on that gathering, the two people leading it, which was Jennifer Denning and Caroline Renee, they had planned that we'll have an affinity group. So the white people would have their affinity group before we actually did exactly what we came together to do. And then BIPOC community, BIPOC, BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color, would have an affinity group. And I noticed that that was something that I needed. I didn't know that I needed it. You know, sometimes when you just receive something that you didn't even know you wanted, needed, desired. So in the group, we started to talk. Now, some of you know, or maybe most of you watching right now, maybe you know or not, but I'll tell you. I used to live in Atlanta up until 2018 for the better part of 25 years. And for some strange reason, I think it's past life stuff. I have a deep connection to Atlanta. I have a deep connection to America, but I really feel like it's Atlanta. So I was born in UK, where I live now. My parents are Nigerian. So I've lived in Nigeria, I've lived in UK, and I've lived in America. Now I'm back in the UK. So in this group, my friends, the fellow interplayers, were talking about what they're going through and what it feels like for them to be in America after George Floyd was murdered and all the protests. Now, I was also connected to it, of course, but what I realized in that gathering was because I am in the UK, the impact wasn't as intense. So I'm listening to my other interplayers and I'm hearing their stories. Somebody shared how concerned they are for their brothers and how they get anxious if their brother hasn't been home yet, or how they are nervous being in an Uber. Someone shared a story of, this protest is making me feel hopeful and I'm grateful. However, I'm kind of mad that that's all we got, hope. But yet they were trusting that things will be better. And some other people shared what they were dealing with. And as I was listening, it was like I was just transported to Atlanta because I was hearing what my friends were going through in Atlanta. And my heart was so open. And because I'm in the UK, the impact wasn't as intense. And I remember as I was listening, I was saying to Spirit, how can I be of service? What can I do to support, to help? I didn't know what to do. And we had the conversation. It was good to connect, to have the affinity group. And then we went into the main group where white people in white body, and the Black people got together, BIPOC community. We all got back together and continued the conversation. We continued the conversation. Anyway, long story short, overnight, I went to sleep, and the next morning, in my sleep, I got what I call dream vision. So it's a dream, but it's a vision of what is possible. It's a dream. It's a message. I get messages when I sleep, when I wake up, first thing in the morning. And the dream vision that came for me was representing our ancestors, representing our stories. And if you've seen it, I want to give you the link now. Let me see if I can post it here. I don't know if I could. Actually, I can do it here, but it may actually just post to YouTube. So I'll say it out loud: bit.ly/represent ancestors. bit.ly/represent ancestors. Okay. Let's see if that posts there. Oh, good. It didn't post on my page. So I'm going to post it there. So this came to me when I woke up, and I made a note. I recorded what came for me. And I'm going to tell you what that is once I post this link here. Represent. Just bear with me, please. Represent ancestors. All right. There we go. So everything that came, I recorded it, I wrote it down. I wasn't sure if what it was actually meant to be. I wasn't sure if this was going to be an event. I don't know if it was a play. I just knew I needed to do something. So I wrote down what came to me. So in short, representing our ancestors, representing our stories, what I received is an opportunity for us, people of African descent, African heritage, to represent our ancestors in a new way. What do I mean by that? You know, there's a propaganda of demonizing Africa, demonizing Africans, demonizing African culture, demonizing African people. America is the loudest when it comes to that kind of demonization. It's happening in most places in the West, but it's loud in America. There's the oppression that happens in America that happens over here. There are stories that we've been told about those who came before us. The stories that we've been told about the Africans who sold their brother and sisters to slavery. The stories we're told about Black people in America, Black people in the UK. Some of the stories, the lies have been written in books. Some of the stories have been perpetuated through movies, through Hollywood, through music, through images, from just narrative that is designed to dehumanize African people, people of African descent, African heritage. So representing our ancestors is an opportunity, is an idea, is a vision where, as African people, African descent, African heritage, Black people, however you want to express yourself, this is an opportunity right now to change the narrative. We're changing the narrative not based on the lies that were told, that we now have to go through each lie and correct it. No. We get to represent our ancestors by not only telling the truth about, yes, they were oppressed. Yes, they were dehumanized. Yes, they were oppressed. They were mistreated. I mean, we know that story very well. We know the story so much that we keep telling the story too. And the more we tell the story, the more depressed we feel, the more heavy we feel. And what is happening now, about a year later now, there's a George Floyd case, which I don't spend a lot of time watching because I don't have the space for it. I am like a paramedic, a doctor who's doing the work that needs to be done rather than go out in front of the hospital and try and figure out what's causing the accident or just looking at the scene of the accident. You know, I know what my mission is. I know why I'm here. So representing our ancestors is not only naming what happened to them that needs healing and those who caused the pain. It's not even about bringing them to justice. It's higher than that. However, it is also about calling and naming the truth that our ancestors, they had joy. They were playful. It may seem like a radical idea. What do you mean? They had joy. They were playful. They made love. They celebrated. They dreamed. They visioned. They looked up at the sky and they called out to the universe, to God, to the divine. They were inspired. They probably, I'm sure they did. They cooked, they invented. They played games. They laughed. They laughed so hard their stomach hurt. They cried. They were sad. We must tell the whole story. That's what representing our ancestors. They made love, whether it was through having an affair or with their chick on the side piece, whatever you want to call it. They passed life on to us. And the story of African ancestors didn't just start in America. We must remember that. So who they are, their dreams lives in us. Their vision lives in us. The things that they went through lives in us. It's in our bones. So this event, this 3-month series, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how it breaks down. If you haven't checked the website, check the site out. But anyway, let me stay on point. It's an opportunity for us to name it, to acknowledge the parts, the stories, the experiences of our ancestors that doesn't always get attention. Because a lot of us feel the pain. We can't imagine how they went through what they went through. And we want to highlight it so someone can pay. Someone needs to pay. Okay, great. And we can pay attention to what wants to be birthed. The part of the dream vision that is representing our stories, to many of us, is bought into the lie, whether consciously or unconsciously, the lies that were told about us, that we start to live it. We've embodied it. We're carrying ourselves as if we're who they say we are, that we're angry. Black women are angry. Black men are aggressive. There's a ploy, is intentional, is written in the system that some people are carrying that forward. They don't even know it while they're saying, well, I'm not like that. But it's in the system. But representing our stories is not about that either. It's recognizing what was, what is, and telling a new story about who I am, who you are. Who are you? Who are you outside of white supremacy? How are you showing up? You're a brother, you're a sister, you're a mother, you're a father, you're a cousin, you're a niece, you're a nephew. You are God in the flesh, in a brown body. And I say brown, and that includes everyone. You know, they say black. I ain't black. This is black. I'm not that. But I get it. You're a God in a brown body. And there's so much more about us, about you, about me. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about you that you may not have thought of, that you may have forgotten because you were distracted. You were distracted by the bullshit about who you are. Let me go over here for a minute. So there is something called, actually, I can maybe go here. There is something called family constellations. If you haven't heard about it, check it out. I have some things about that because the story is family constellations was created by a German guy who lived in, I think in South Africa or Zimbabwe, somewhere in South Africa, and he came up with it. But really, well, they did say as well, he studied what people did in Africa. So he put it together. That's kind of neither here nor there at this point. But after participating in family constellations, the first gathering, and the whole idea of family constellation is that the things that happen to your ancestors, the secrets, the lies, the stories that were not given life, they want to be acknowledged. Those stories, those secrets, the hidden stories, the hidden experiences wants to be acknowledged. And when they're not acknowledged, when the stories, the experiences, maybe someone was lynched and they weren't talked about. Maybe someone was murdered. Somebody had mental health issues but they were locked in a room and nobody really talked about them. Each and every one of us carry that in our body, cell memory in our souls. And it shows up in different ways. So you might have in your family where you're saying, oh, in my family, there's always been alcoholics in my family. Oh, depression runs in my family. Whatever. Cancer runs in my family. Diabetes run in my family. You know, they'll tell you other things about that. It's in the genes. You know, any kind of disease that is showing up in your body, it's something that wants to be acknowledged. So family constellations is based on the premise that the hidden truth, the unspoken truth, wants to be acknowledged. So think about that for a minute. What in your lineage wants to be acknowledged? That's showing up as, I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I'm dependent on alcohol and drugs. I can never figure it out. I don't know why I feel depressed. I'm always anxious. I keep doing these things that are detrimental to me. Or maybe someone in your family is who you can see that's carrying that energy. There's always someone in the family that's going to highlight what we call generational trauma. Generational trauma from a spiritual perspective is healing that wants to happen. Now, let me say something here. So through the family constellations, and I studied it, I was very excited about it, and I actually wanted to be a facilitator of it. But I never did go down that path. And it occurred to me, you know, one of those simple truths that is hidden in plain sight. It occurred to me, just this image, like, okay, so there's me, and then my parents behind me, and then they're my grandparents, then they're my great-grandparents, and then great goes on. And now, for a long time, I wanted to create a kind of visual to emphasize, to help us see, to help me see that there are thousands upon thousands behind me, people that I call ancestors. So I never got to doing it. I couldn't find the right concept. Not long ago, I saw something on social media, and it was called Ancestral Mathematics. Some of you may have seen it. I don't know. Maybe I'll share it, actually. No, I don't know if I'll be able to share it. But what I'm going to tell you is, think about it. So this idea of the ancestral mathematics is about people who came before you. If you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have 32 people behind you. So you have your parents, you have your grandparents, you have your great-grandparents, then you have your second generation grandparents, then the third generation great-grandparents, and it goes on and on and on. If you go as far as the 9th generation to just count how many people came before you, get this. It is 2,048 ancestors behind you. Whether you know your father or your mother or not, whether your mother was raped, whether your mother was molested, maybe you call yourself an accident. None of us is an accident anyway. None of us. You're not an accident. You came here by divine mission, divine right action. You're meant to be here. Anyway, however you came to this planet, if you go 9 generations back, there are 2,048 people behind you. 2,048 people, they were alive long enough for you to be around today. Now, if you go back 12 generations, you have 4,094 people behind you. 12 generations, 4,094 people behind you. Think about that for a minute. So the life that they lived, their joy, their excitement, their vision, their dreams, their goals, their gratitude, their playfulness, their laughter, their joy. I think I said that. lives in you. Then think about the pain that they went through, the hard times that they went through, the oppression that they experienced, the starvation that they experienced, the confusion that they went through. It lives in you. Now, most of us don't want to think of the negative thing. That's negative. I don't want to focus on anything negative. Okay, whatever. Whatever. If you don't learn to embrace your shadow self, if you will, the dark side of light, of life, the dark side of light. I like that. Yes, the dark side of the light and the light side of the dark. Woo! Y'all better teach me. If you ignore the dark side of your light side, the dark side of life, you are not really experiencing wholeness. Wholeness is about the dark and the light. And this dark that I'm talking about is that unconscious part of you. It doesn't have to be evil. Anyway, I don't know how much I want to keep this short. So think about, you go back 9 generations and you are connected to 2,048 people. And a part of them, the energetic imprint, lives in you. It lives in me. So some of the things that we're going through, if not all, is really about something that's seeking healing. That's calling for the light, for the truth to be spoken. So when we talk about our ancestors, the oppression that they went through, let's talk about their joy. You can talk about their joy. You can talk about them laughing, playing games, pranking one another, dreaming, visioning. You can. You humanize them completely. You represent them to the world in a whole new way. There's more. And like I said, I think I'm going to do something every day up until the event. That's the plan. One other thing I want to say, I'm feeling it. I was going to pull it up earlier, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it. So I'm just going to paraphrase. Maybe I can find it while I do this. So you think about the people who came before you, who live in you. Unique said, oh my, yes. If we really take a moment to just stop and breathe that in. How dare you think you don't have what it takes to live this life? Think about the experiences of over 4,000 people that came before you that have navigated this thing called life. Granted, it's not during this lifetime, but their wisdom, their knowledge, their intelligence, all of it lives in you. So if you were applying for a job, if you are applying for a job and the job is living life to the fullest or knowing how to be in relationship, you got thousands upon thousands experience, however you want to measure that. However you want to measure that. Okay, so let me see if I can pull up the other thing I want to share with you. I'm going to see if I can do this because it's important. So I'm going to just relax and let it be. No, let's go here. Whew. We representing our ancestors, represent our stories is more than just an event. I don't see it here. Maybe I'll share that tomorrow. Yeah, I'll share that tomorrow. So I'm not going to distract myself because I want to wrap this up. So if you go 12 generations back, there are 4,094 people behind you. You are the physical representation of these people. You are the physical representation of your ancestors. Whether you know where you're from or not, whether you feel like you don't know, you know you're from Africa, but they live in you. Don't forget cell memory. Now, I'm talking about how I got the dream vision a year ago, and now almost a year later, actually it will be, yeah, a year ago, it was in May. I think it was in May. So the first event is April 24th. For those of you who are just joining us, go to bit.ly/represent ancestors. bit.ly/represent ancestors. The dream vision came through. I said yes to it. I was scared. I was nervous, and yet I was inspired. I wanted to do it immediately. I actually had an opportunity to do it in like a few weeks because I was sharing with Carolyn Renee, and she said, we got this interplay gathering. You can do it. So we did a short one. The one on April 24th is a 3-hour session. It is the theme really is around grieving. I'm going to tell you why that's important. I also want to say that I had the dream vision. I spoke it. I said yes to it. A few months later, I found out that I can actually get funding to birth it. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that when you have a vision, when you have a dream, when you have a dream vision, when you get a message, you don't have to know how it's going to happen. The most important thing is your yes. So let me tell you about what's happening this month, April 24th. It's a grief ritual session. And that's another thing that sometimes we run from because we think grief is heavy. It's dark, it's negative. But if you want to grow, if you want to expand, if you want to transform, now let me say it this way. Grieving is part of growth and transformation. When we don't name it, we can fall into depression. When we name it, hey Keisha, hey Carol, and Kwali, when we name it, we don't depress it because we are naming and saying, I'm grieving. When you name it, you don't depress, you express. Depress is using your own energy, your own creative energy against you. So rather than your energy, your life force going out this way, you're overthinking, overanalyzing. There's something wrong with me. Why is this happening to me? I'm a victim. So it's just turning around in your head, and you don't want to share with anybody. It's just me. This happens in my family. So it just builds up. So you get depressed. But when you express it, you press externally, you press out. Though you're grieving, there's a flexibility to you. So the first session is about creating a space for us to connect with our heart, to speak on behalf of our ancestors, those who couldn't speak up. The ancestors who, I don't want to just say gave their life, but maybe they did things back then that you will look back today and you might be ashamed of because they had to do that. Maybe one of your ancestors slept, let's really get deep here, slept with somebody just to save their children. Maybe they gave their lives to save the family. Maybe they danced for the master because they're trying to protect themselves. Just think about that. The things that we judge, the things that we don't allow a little bit more grace for, to say, well, maybe we don't have the whole picture. And not just grieving the ones that you can't see their faces. And we're going to do this grieving session through song, embodiment practices, writing. We're going to call it a grief ritual. You want to bring your candles, your journal. If you go to that link, it has all the information on there. But it's an opportunity to release all the energy, all the things that we've been carrying that doesn't serve us, and name it, call it, and set ourselves free. It's time to stop giving white supremacy too much power. Right? White supremacy needs us to grow. And the more we point to it and blame it, the stronger it gets. The white people who are bent on denying the oppressions of African people, They need us to keep going back at them, trying to educate them. Stop. Represent your ancestors and represent yourself. Represent your stories. This is a process. So the first one is grief ritual, and the second one is we're going to tell a new story. And that's happening May 15th. The third one is happening June 19th. That's a vision of a new generation. As I said earlier, this is going to be, I plan to be here every day. That's what Spirit told me. So I'm going to keep to that until the day of the event. And I don't think I finished the thought I was having earlier about when you have a dream, when you have an idea, say yes to it. I had the dream, I had the vision, I was willing to do it. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but through conversation, I realized there's ways to get it funded. It was funded through Interplay, the Racial Equity and Transformation mini grant. And I have some other ideas that I've been thinking about. Maybe this will be a production where it'll be what it needs to be. I'm not even going to start talking about that right now. There is more. There is more. But if you don't get anything from what I've said tonight, I want to leave you just one thing. If you go 12 generations back, there are 4,094 people standing behind you. 4,094 people got together through divine order, through accident. They traveled the world. They met in different places. So for you to be alive today, if you just go back just 12 generations, 4,094 people got together. And guess what? You are the physical representation of 4,094 people. That's only 12 generations. So keep going back, and keep counting, keep multiplying. I'll stop here, and I want to leave this with you. You know, when they say God is all there is, God is everywhere, evenly present, God is all knowing, all powerful, God is the infinite. Check this out. Actually, what's coming up for me to say sounds kind of like, yeah, everybody knows that, but I'm going to say it. And then maybe there'll be some explanations to come with that. What if to know God is to know and understand and align with your ancestors? That God is your ancestors. God is your ancestors. So when you feel like you're disconnected from God, what if what you need to remember you remember your parents, whether they're in your life or not, whether they gave you away for adoption, you came through them. They passed life on to you. What if to know God, to find your sense of belonging, it's about connecting to your ancestors, however you do that, however you see that. There's more. Tomorrow, actually, I'm going to leave you with something else. I want to leave you with this affirmation. And then I'm going to add one more thing to it. Today, as I was reflecting on the event and kind of talking to Spirit and my ancestors about what's going to happen on this event, this coming Saturday, April 24th, 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm co-leading it with a dear friend of mine, Michelle Jordan. She also uses the middle name, the nickname Queen Michelle. The affirmation I want to leave you with is, try it. Repeat this regularly for the next hour, once a day, for the next week, for the next month. I am present. I am here. I am now. I am present. I am here. I am now. I am present. I am here. I am now. If God is your ancestors, and God is everywhere evenly present. Now, for some of you, this may be a little bit challenging, so let's try this. If God is in your ancestors, if God gave birth, created your ancestors 12 generations back, 4,094 people, the creation of God, you are the embodiment of that, of those people. God lives in you. God is you. God expresses through you. God is everything. I am present. You were pre-sent for this moment. I am here. I am now. Now, I was talking to my lady today, and she said something, and I'll talk more about that. Hopefully, I don't forget. And we were having this conversation, and what I was trying to pull up earlier, I can't find it, but that's going to be the sort of where I'm going to start off next week and tomorrow. And the idea that you have always existed because every woman has a certain amount of eggs inside of her that's then passed to her daughters. I'll say more about that. And my lady, when we were talking about this today, I'm just all over the place with time. But I am present, I am here, I am now. So whether it's next week or whatever. Anyway, she said, we were talking about that. She said, so when we realize, I'm paraphrasing, but without giving too much away, because I'm going to continue tomorrow. I am already here. You have already been here. Maybe not in a physical sense, but the essence of who you really are has always been and always will be. That's it. I'm wrapping it up. It's 2 a.m. over here. My body's like, okay, enough already. I want to invite you again to join us April 24th, 2021, a week from now, actually a little under a week. The link, go to bit.ly/represent ancestors. Sign up, share your questions if you want to know more. Now, as a series, as I said, part 1, part 2, and 3. Part 1 is April, part 2 is in May, and part 3 is in June. Turns out, actually, that the one we're doing in June falls on Juneteenth, which is just divine. We didn't plan it like that. Now, if you can't make the 3, it's fine. But I strongly recommend that you join the 3 sessions because it's a process. The process of releasing and grieving what wants to die, what wants to be released, so that you can birth a new reality. You can allow what wants to die, the stories that you bought into unconsciously, you can allow them to die. That's how you represent your ancestors. That's how you represent your stories. And yes, this event is for people of African descent, African heritage. And if you want to know why, ask me. I'll tell you why. But anyway, thank you, everyone. It's kind of too late to have dinner, but I'm starving. I'm going to find something to eat. Thank you for joining me. Join me tomorrow. I don't know what time. I'm just going to pop up. Tuesday is my podcast, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So that will be what I do on Tuesday. This Tuesday, I'm actually doing question and answer on my podcast. And I'm going to talk a little bit more, whatever Spirit wants me to share about that. or even better, whatever my ancestors want me to share about that. Think about it. Think about people who came before you and ask yourself, are you mostly focused on their pain most of the time? Do you spend more time grieving or complaining about the struggles that they went through? Or do you spend time also thinking about, they danced, they drummed, they told stories, they healed each other, they understood nature, they knew which leaves and barks and trees. Don't do your life a disservice. Honor everything about yourself, about your ancestors. One more thing, I'm trying to wrap it up, but it just keeps coming. If you find it hard to believe, to imagine that your ancestors laughed, that they danced, that they had joy, if it's just an intellectual thing, think about it. 400 years, 500 years, 600 years from now, people might say year 2020 was a horrible year for their ancestors. The year 2021 was a little bit better, but 2020 was horrible. People were dying. They couldn't even breathe because they had to wear a mask. They were locked in their house. They couldn't go out. Because, sometimes when we tell stories, we exaggerate it. People didn't connect. They weren't able to hug one another. And people died because they couldn't hug one another. They couldn't breathe. They were suffocating. They told the story to exaggerate it, but that's not the truth. Yes, people died, and many lives were born. And at the same time, there were new businesses that started. Some people made more money in their business than they've made in the last 5 years. Some people had different ideas. Different businesses showed up. You had an idea. You found another way to be with your family members. But oftentimes, history doesn't talk about what's great. But maybe we are the generation to change that. That we can talk about the whole of what it means to be human. And as you do that, you're representing your ancestors. And you're representing your stories. You are so much more than your stories. You're so much more than what happened to you. You don't have enough brain cells. You don't have enough brain cells to even understand your own life. So don't even try it. That's right. I said it. And I'm out. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. Peace and blessings.